Welcome to the Affirm Life Daily Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, visit the website, affirmlifedaily.com. There's tons of information, resources, videos, links to different products and books and videos and documentaries. There's affirmation. So there's a lot of thought-provoking and helpful information on the website. Follow on social media. As always, your support is needed to promote the truth and freedom. And I am so happy to welcome my guest today for the second time. What? Meditation Coach Soul. So I'm so happy to have him here. He is controversial, cool, confident. He's a writer, a business owner, a father, a husband, natural law expert, but most importantly, he is absolutely 100% dedicated to the truth and to freedom. So his businesses are Ufulu Child. Check out Ufulu Child. Am I saying that right? Okay. Check out the body butter. Firsthand experience. Check out the body butter. That's all I got to say. And he's Meditation of the Heart is his meditation coaching business. Also amazing. His last presentation that he did with me was about meditation. So he knows his stuff on that. And today we're going to be discussing cultural norms and their harmful impact. So I'm going to turn over the mic to Coach Soul.
All right. I just closed something that was not supposed to close. So give me just a sec.
No worries.
As that was hilarious how that happened. Okay, here we go. Little boxes on the hillside. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky. Little boxes on the hillside. Little boxes all the same. There's a pink one and a green one. And a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And the people in those houses all went to the university, and they were put in boxes, and they came out all the same. And there's doctors and lawyers and business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And they all play on the golf course and drink their martinis dry. And they all have pretty children, and their children go to school. Then the children go to summer camp, and then to the university, where they're all put in boxes and they come out all the same. And the boys go into business and marry and raise a family in boxes made of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. Look, there's a pink one, and a green one, and a blue one, and a yellow one. And they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.
I should have added singer on there. Okay. I'm feeling that. That was a great start.
You feeling that?
I'm feeling that. That's perfect.
Today, thank you so much. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about collective illusions. If you are out there and you have any idea of what it will take for us to get free, you might already have an idea that we are, in part, going to have to leave behind the status quo. We're going to have to leave behind that which calls us to all look just the same. And just in case you didn't understand some of the words, I'm going to run through the lyrics of this song one more time. I did not write this song. This song was written, or I don't know if it was written for it, but I discovered this song watching this old show called Weeds. That was, I think it was on Hulu. And it was about this white lady who started selling weed when she was.
I know exactly what you're talking about, that show.
Yeah. So this was the opener to Weeds.
Was it? I only saw it a couple times. Okay.
Yeah. And the lyrics go, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes all the same. There's a green one and a pink one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses all went to the university where they were put in boxes, and they came out all the same. And there's doctors and lawyers and business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. And they all play on the golf course and drink their martinis dry. And they all have pretty children, and their children go to school. And the children go to summer camp and then to the university where they are put in boxes, and they come out all the same. The boys go into business and marry and raise a family in boxes made of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. There's a pink one and a green one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same. So let's get into our discussion about collective illusions. First of all, what is a collective illusion? Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. This is not my idea. And collective illusion in this presentation is not going to be used as a general description. It's actually going to be used more so as a technical term for a phenomenon. And so a collective illusion is, it's actually going to be defined directly in the next slide. First, I want to give you a quote by who I'm giving credit to, this guy, Todd Rose. Todd Rose says, "In a perfect world, our public selves are the same as our private selves. At its best, public opinion holds a mirror to us and reflects exactly who we are. What collective illusions do to that relationship is turn it into a funhouse of mirrors, which is fatal to a free society." So collective illusions, they come in, and instead of public opinion and public shared norms and publicly accepted hierarchies and things like that, being a reflection of the society's heart and being a reflection of the individual in the society's heart, what collective illusions do is they make that into a fun house of mirrors. It's reflecting a whole bunch of different things that are all incomplete, and none of them actually reflect the whole of the picture. Because if you look at a fun house of mirrors, it's reflection after reflection into reflection into reflection. So it makes them all incomplete, right? You don't get a complete picture. So Todd Rose is the leader and founder of the Populous team. Populous is a think tank that conducts large-scale surveys that use what's called private opinion methods to free participants of their surveys from social pressure when they're answering questions. And in essence, they'll allow for two answers to every question that they ask. And one of those answers is, "What do you think?" And the other answer is, "What do you think most people would say?" Right? So they ask both of these questions. They give a topic of discussion and maybe some background information and how they're supposed to approach their answer. And then they answer both of these questions for everything in their survey. What do you think? What do you think the public thinks?
Okay.
Now, here's the definition of a collective illusion. It's a situation in which most people in a group or a society go along with the view that they don't agree with simply because they incorrectly believe that most people do agree with it. The challenge is that our children are paying the price. Almost no one believed in their heart of hearts that it was a good solution to the COVID crisis to put kids in masks during the 2020 pandemic, if you will. Right? Nobody believed that. When you look at this picture, hopefully something is cringing inside of you like, man, take that off. Because it's just like,
right.
Look at all this greenery around you. Like, are you serious?
Right.
Yet, because of media manipulation, because of appeal to authority conditioning, because of fear and lack of interest in the truth behind the COVID crisis and behind whether or not masks do anything to an airborne virus at all, because of this, conglomerate of conditions, people all over the world forced their children to participate in this ritual. And it was a ritual. It definitely had spiritual consequences that came with it that we're still facing today. Mm-hmm. And I live in Austin, Texas. I see people in masks every time I go outside. It's ridiculous. Still? And this in turn, I'm sorry?
Still?
Oh my goodness. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. You go to the grocery store, at least one of the cashiers, it's
well, yeah,
everywhere.
that's true. That's true. At the grocery store, I have been seeing them make a little bit of a comeback, unfortunately.
Yep. So this made the children fall under a collective illusion that media tells the truth, right? That's one. They also fell under the collective illusion that masks can stop airborne viruses, these kind of masks at least. They also fell under the collective illusion that their parents had good and moral reasons for what they were doing. Spoiler alert, they didn't. And when we look back at history years and years and years from now, it will be obvious. But right now, because of the collective illusions that so many are under just regarding this one thing. And this is, a sort of pungent example, a poignant example of collective illusions, but there are tons of them. Because of that, we're being led astray as a society, and freedoms as well as rights, property rights, right to your body, right to your own decision-making processes, right to do as you please without harming anyone else are being stripped from us with our consent.
Yeah. Yes.
So a collective illusion in one generation tends to become the private opinion of the next generation. And this is the real harm in collective illusions, right? Because and we're going to get into some more specific examples of collective illusions that we can see are now taking shape in Generation Z and Generation A. I forget what the next one after Z is, but the next one after Z. Mm-hmm. And in the research done at the Populous think tank, Rose, who did a presentation on this information, he points out that collective illusions have been studied for at least 100 years. But with the advent of social media, which exacerbates and speeds up groupthink formation and things like that. Yes. Yep. Social media and other cultural and technological conditions that we see around us today and help shape our world today have made creating and maintaining and sustaining collective illusions so much easier for the social engineers that seek to bolster and reinforce groupthink everywhere, because that makes us fight each other. Mm-hmm. Right. And it increases the negative effects that it has on society. And Rose also said that the collective illusions in the last 20 years, so 20 years ago, up to now, compared to about 100 years ago, have proliferated beyond imagination. Yeah. The danger, again, is that collective illusion in one generation becomes the private opinion in the next generation. And so to really take a look at this, let's think about the collective illusion about success. Okay, the myth that success is a measure of status and power, or fame and fortune. Yes. Okay, because in a world where we worship money and authority over everything, power and status is what we hold as a successful life.
Yes, you have all these miserable people that are successful.
Miserable.
They don't get that. If you were really successful, you wouldn't be miserable.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't adhere to other people being miserable all around you, or you're or just blindly contributing to the problem. As long as my family is okay, you wouldn't be okay with that type of thinking either.
Exactly.
So let's look at fame and fortune. According to Rose, the vast majority of the American public believes that most people care about wealth, status, and power, when in fact the opposite is true. And remember, when they do these surveys, and they're large scale surveys, if you were to see where these people work, they have the money to make sure that this survey goes out and gets as many answers as possible. Okay. Check them out too. Populous. They do good work with these surveys and these studies. They let you answer for what's your personal opinion and what do you think most people would say, right? Most Americans actually care about, in their personal opinion, personal fulfillment, which is not defined by fame or fortune, has nothing to do with either one of those concepts or states of being, right? For personal fulfillment involves embracing your passion, doing what you love to do, and doing it every day, right? Or as often as possible. It's about finding the joy in the journey and not focusing solely on the destination. So loving the work, loving the growth periods in the work, loving the ups and downs of heading towards a destination or an achievement or a state of being, a state of being for your community, right? As well as being true to yourself. And Cynthia, I know you talk pretty much every episode, at least a little bit, about authenticity.
Yes, it is. It's key. What is life if you can't actually be who you are? It like defeats the purpose of the whole experience,
Exactly. You can't learn about yourself if you're too busy being someone else.
Exactly.
So here's another myth. The myth that group consensus or the majority opinion is vetted and factual. Okay, that if most people really believe this, then it has to be true, right? This is a collective illusion that most people are under. And by the way, I wanted to say about fame and fortune too, that you can see in the rush to go viral with our young people, the rush to go viral for anything. Remember the Tide Pod challenge and the cinnamon challenge that had people going to the hospital?
Yes.
People taking a video of eating a spoonful of cinnamon and choking almost to death, or eating a Tide Pod.
And the crate challenge, people falling off a stack of crates, just crazy.
Yes. Just to go viral.
Yep.
Right? And the phenomenon of when something, let's just say very bad, is happening in front of you, the reach to take out your phone and tape it versus seeking to do whatever is most appropriate to stop the bad thing from happening and getting involved because you're there, because you're a thinking, feeling, not psychopathic human being that can do something about it because you're there in proximity. But instead, we, in the name of either minding my own business or keeping the attention off of me, whatever it is, we stay away, we take out our phone, and we just tape what's going on. And sometimes we have a nice laugh about it, which is not necessarily a moral choice, right? Definitely not most of the time. I mean, if something really bad is going on and you don't really know how to act and you just want to document that something was, going on and for other purposes, I'm not saying every single situation go ahead and stick your hand in. But most things that most people can see, that most people can do something about, that they're pulling out their phone and trying to make a viral moment out of, is not okay, right? I believe we can all agree with that. And so that's about the fame and fortune stuff as well, and I mean, just, it's like you almost don't want to say OnlyFans, but that too.
Yeah.
Okay. You almost don't even want to say it. Okay, so groupthink. The idea that if it's the group consensus, then it must be right. It must be true. Conformity to groupthink is a compelled behavior. It's enforced by public shaming. It's reinforced by conformity bias that we're going to talk about on this slide. This is pretty much due to the myth that the group is always correct, right? Especially if the group is aligned with mainstream media, mainstream news outlets, state-run public shaming campaigns, right? These things that it seems like it's coming from a top-down expert opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That reminds me of the follow the science, because they're the experts and we're just idiots. There's no way we should be allowed to research anything. No.
Just
we're not experts.
Trust the science, baby. Trust the science. So there exists in the human brain a response mechanism called conformity bias, which is it's a survival mechanism. It evolved over time. Okay. It's a survival mechanism that evolved from thousands of years of slavery and ignorance of natural law in the human family. If you know anything about natural law, it has to do with the moral standing of a given group of people, right? A very large group or a very small group. Doesn't matter. It's the moral standing of the individual to the whole human family across the whole world. And it's a set of conditions that are built into the universe itself that govern the consequences for our moral standing. And so slavery, which has been pretty much at least a large part of the human condition since the dawn of humanity, and at least according to a lot of the ancient tablets, since the dawn of humanity, there has been the existence of slavery somewhere in the world. And wherever there's a kingdom, wherever there is some sort of unnatural hierarchy of authority and obey because I said so going on, that is a form of slavery. You don't have to be in the fields picking cotton for it to be slavery. Right. But because of thousands of years of you have to conform to this group, you have to conform to these norms, you have to conform to what I say and what we say, and what the leader says, basically, that also the majority will say, because they want to be recognized by the leader as, I can follow your orders better than everyone else. Mm-hmm. Oh, great leader, please grant me more freedom. Because of this condition, conformity bias has evolved in the brain. And conformity bias, basically, it activates in the brain, causing a lot of other brain functions to short circuit for a second. It doesn't mean you fall over and you can't balance yourself anymore. It means something goes, alert, something's wrong. You should really pay attention to what you're saying and what you're doing right now. And it's a feeling, it's a fear-based feeling that happens in the body. And it's called conformity bias. And basically it tells you, don't deviate too far from the group. And you have a real biological response to that. I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast can, especially if you think back to the days when you were like in school and you had your friend group, this happening within your body, right? Within your alert system. You were deviating, you saw a couple looks that they were giving you around you, and you decided depending on your personality, you might have just decided, well, fuck y'all. But you also might have decided, like, I'm gonna change course and go with what the last person said, actually, because I don't want to just go against the group. And you were young then, so you didn't have, super, big things of evidence behind how you think and what you think like you do as an adult.
You just don't want to lose your friend, basically. You just want to keep your
That's
friends.
it. Yeah. Yep. That's all you got. And so going against the group in that regard, that's a hard thing to do when you're younger.
Yep.
And here's a little video that will demonstrate once again, back to the vaccine conversation, just because it's so recent and it was so huge. They shut the whole world down for this thing. And I want you to remember some of the rhetoric that was going down. And this is pulled from YouTube, so this shouldn't get anything like muted or striked or anything, okay?
Okay.
Vaccine. From Dolly singing, begging of you, please don't hesitate.
Put the needle down.
To Arnold directing. And Mariah squirming. Celebrities are posing for a vaccine selfie, also known as the vaccine, in this pandemic. Politicians are also posting online after they roll up their sleeves and in some cases unbutton their shirts.
Okay, so just
vaccine.
There we go. So just a little a little dive back into the past of all of this evidence for this is what the group thinks you should do. This is what the group says you should do and you should believe about this behavior of getting this concoction of medicine put into your arm. Okay, I use medicine very loosely and sarcastically there.
Very loosely.
Yeah, very, very sarcastic use of the word medicine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But this conglomerate of ingredients, there we go, shot into your body because everybody that you liked, everybody that was popular, everybody that was, an influencer, right? But a mainstream backed influencer, not just Instagram only, was telling you the same thing. They all were mockingbirding each other. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. The truth is
guilting everyone.
I'm sorry?
And guilting everyone. Now you're a bad citizen. You're a bad person. You're selfish. You're so selfish. It's like, come on now. Yeah.
Yep. Public shaming.
Yeah.
Public shaming. And I think I get into that in this presentation. If I don't, then when I get to talking about my book, you guys better be ready to be excited about my book. It's not out yet, but it will be very soon. Anyway, there is nothing that makes the truth change, and there is nothing that can change a lie into the truth. What does this mean? This means that there is nothing magical about societal consensus in and of itself that makes it so that if enough people believe it, now it is true. If enough people with their behavior support it, then it must be true, or then now it suddenly is true, even if it wasn't before. Well, now this is true. No, it's not. Well, now you can pick your gender by waking up and deciding it's something else. No, you can't. You couldn't yesterday, you can't today, and you won't be able to tomorrow. No matter how much on the outside it may look like you can. Right? Some people got the money to make it really look like you can. Okay, fine, but you can't.
Right.
So willingness to conform or unwillingness to challenge the group and change your behavior to be more aligned with truth and morality actually contributes to the group being led astray. And so where most people would think that, oh, well, I'm keeping the peace if I conform. Oh, well, I'm keeping myself and my family safe if I conform and if I am unwilling to challenge the group consensus. Where most people would say, oh, well, it's just, you got to pick your battles and you have to go to work tomorrow and whatever else excuse that people give themselves to stay silent in the face of bold-faced lies. Those excuses actually make it so that these things get worse and worse and worse over time. So that these things snowball into the extreme of them over time. And so that's what leads to us actually being a less safe and a more chaotic society, is when people are unwilling to challenge or just overtly willing to conform to everything that the group consensus may seem to say. And of course, it's a collective illusion. The group isn't actually saying these things a lot of times. The mainstream media is giving the appearance that the group is saying this. Yes. And the authority figures are giving the appearance and the threat that if you don't conform, this is going to happen to you, this, and that. But the public actually doesn't really believe this stuff. And so when you speak out, you may find that someone who was a little less courageous than you, but just needed you to be the example, will also speak up right next to you and say, I'm with him, I'm with her.
Right. Yes.
Now, collective illusion about the segregation in the South. Let's dive into pissing some Black people off, but with love, okay? Because I tell you, sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. In the southern states of America in the 1960s, so I'm not talking about 17 and 1800s, okay? In the 1960s, 1964 or 5 is when the end of segregation happened, okay? On national, in terms of law, man's law, right? But in the southern states in the 1960s, the majority of white people actually wanted to end segregation. They wanted to end separate but equal. However, because they were under the collective illusion, believing that most other whites in their communities, most other whites in the southern states, still favored segregation, they just conformed and silently kept to themselves about it. Manipulated by media channels, politicians, and the whole, the religious sector, right? The churches, anybody who was a corrupt authority at that time, who was going with the mockingbird, saying the same thing about Black people and integration or whatever at the time. They were manipulated by that, and so they silently conformed in favor of the very few whites that are actually, in fact, evil. And this is something, now this is a well-documented something, but this is also something found out by populists, because luckily a lot of people, when they put this survey out from the 1960s, were still alive. And they were still talking to their parents and grandparents about what their thoughts were back then. And they got to do this survey where they found out, oh, wow, most of you guys, not even just like half and half, most of you actually wanted to end it, well before it was ended, but you conformed silently. So the real life consequences, this discussion about collective illusions is not about like, oh, okay, that was nice. No, there's real life consequences to blind conformity. And we're going to get into some more of that. But first, I wanted to ask Cynthia, did this surprise you at all?
No, you know what? It doesn't. It really doesn't surprise me, because you see it every day. You still see it every day, where people go along with things, and you can even kind of sense it from them that they know, like, this is evil, this is not right, but they'll still go along. They just so badly want to fit in. They don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to be left out. They don't want to lose friends and family. They don't want to lose their job, whatever. But you can sense it so often in people that they really don't want to go along with what they're going along with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It surprised me, if I can be honest. So conformity to culture. This is the last big collective illusion that we're going to go into, which is conformity to culture or cultural norms. Okay. The myth that cultural norms are actually there to protect you. Okay. Huge myth. People don't even know how much they believe in this. How much they if said a different way, and if said a more mainstream media accepted kind of way, they would say, yeah, I believe in that. People don't even know. Let's get into it. So first of all, the human brain is an energy hoarder. Okay. It's always looking for ways to conserve energy. And the most common yet unseen way to conserve energy is through cultural norms. These norms are how we make life more predictable for ourselves and introduce comfort and familiarity to social interactions. It's how we are less awkward with ourselves. It's how we're less awkward with each other. I'm reminded of this quote by Jeremy Locke in one of my favorite books, The End of All Evil. Book changed my life. Shout out to Mark Passio for pointing this book out to me. Mm-hmm. And I think, Cynthia, you actually quoted this book not too long ago, so I'm going to quote it as well in my episode here.
I have a link to the PDF on my website if anybody on the resources page, if anybody wants to check it out. It's totally free.
And it's a short book.
It's very short.
It's a short book. Have the PDF read it to you. You can hit read aloud on PDF. So just download it. Yeah, you can have it read to you. Microsoft Word and PDF will both read to you.
Okay.
For free. I mean, it's a little, computer voice, but It is what it is. So Jeremy Locke said, when an authority is established amongst people, evil is either obvious to see or nearly impossible to see, depending entirely upon whether or not you are a part of its culture. Again, when an authority is established amongst people, evil is either obvious to see or nearly impossible to see, depending entirely upon whether or not you are a part of its culture. So if you grow up doing something, participating in something, supporting something that is evil, you might not even be able to see for yourself, be able to critically think about and observe from a bird's eye view your own contributions to evil, because it's a phenomenon of well, like I can't see Chicago from my window here in Austin, Texas, right? But I can see like my little area. I can't even see downtown from my window. So what you can see is just kind of what's around you, this phenomenon of proximity. Your proximity is all you kind of, the information that you have available to you, unless you use technology, the internet, word of mouth, and travel. You go see things for yourself. You're kind of locked into what's around. You have a very limited view of real life and the scope of life, at least in terms of the human family, by just your five senses. And so evil, which is orchestrated from very high up in terms of our status hierarchy, orchestrated from very high up, very top-down structure, how they make the average person participate and support in evil acts. It's hard to see, and it's hard to even contemplate and critically think about and observe and reflect on the evil that you are participating in, the evil that you are contributing to. And I don't say this from a high horse. I every day participate in evil myself, because there's just so much of it going on that I have to, until there's enough people around me in a community that can get together and strategically plan on how we're all going to collectively stop certain agendas at the same time effectively, and with good forethought, that we have to continue to participate in the system and feed the machine until that day comes. Right. So I don't say this from a high horse. I participate in evil. So do you. So does Cynthia. So does everybody. We can't help it to a large degree. But people that are engaged right now in spreading the word and making more and more people aware are doing the groundwork and the bricklaying, if you will, for enough people to be able to stand on solid ground and say, I know what I know, and I'm going to collectively stop with this group of people participating in feeding the machine. Right. So if we can just give some snaps to people like Cynthia and, other people, you know what I'm saying? I sure, we can throw me in there, who are doing the good work of bringing people together under the banner of, first, let's just defeat ignorance. Let's get a win over ignorance, right? Let's be victorious over our ignorance.
Right.
And then once we're knowledgeable, now we can plan with smarts. Now we can cook with grease, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we can't see that stuff because we're born into it. We are born into cultural norms. And we grow up thinking that cultural norms that we see reflect something true and good, when the complete opposite may be true. And of course, this depends on the situation. So let's talk about the positive deviance movement in Vietnam, because this was a really cool and inspiring story. In the 1980s and 90s, many of the children in Vietnam were malnourished. They had a huge problem with sickness, death, and whatnot of children because of malnourishment. The cultural norm at the time was that shrimp and crab meat were not to be fed to children, because the expert opinion from the top down was that it was just bad for kids. So don't give it to kids. Don't give shrimp meat and crab meat to kids, just because we said so. Okay. And I'm oversimplifying it a little bit so you get a sort of bigger picture of what you would be born into at the time. In a time of great hardship, most people, to their own and to their children's detriment, awaited a top-down solution to be given to them by authoritative figures, authoritative sources. The real saving grace came by way of an initiative that involved going into these communities and talking with the parents of children who were under the same constraints, but had healthier children somehow, some way, and asking them what they were doing. Turns out, spoiler alert, turns out that the mothers that had children, multiple children, most of them, and their children were not malnourished, were supplementing the lack of food and rice and things with shrimp and crab meat. But they were doing so quietly because the cultural norm was that you don't feed shrimp and crab meat to your kids. They were doing it quietly. Tell the censored truth. Okay, the Positive Deviance Initiative elevated the voices of these mothers to spread awareness. First thing to know is that it was not enough to simply tell people to feed shrimp and crab meat to their kids. It was not enough to get a blowhorn or get a sign, a banner, and drive down the street that said, feed shrimp and crab meat to your kids. Because those foods were already being kept away from children due to the misinformation of the time. And again, due to the cultural norm of people being born into that, so they don't see for themselves from a bird's eye view that everywhere else in the world that has seafood is feeding shrimp and crab meat to their kids and nothing wrong has happened. Right. They don't have that bird's eye view, right?
Right.
In elevating the voices of those who are living with healthy children, the cultural norm could finally be broken, and as a result, the population is thriving again. And to this day, the Positive Deviance Initiative helps educate people with good principles, and this story is well known in the region as well as in other countries around Vietnam. For many years, the fact that the community was so attached to the idea of a top-down, quote-unquote, expert solution to everything was the only reason that these kids were suffering, was the only thing in the way of saving these kids' lives for many years, for decades. One thing was in the way, which was, I don't want to directly question or challenge or go against the cultural norm. I want to wait on the expert top-down solution to this problem.
Right.
And so I'm writing a book. Well, no, I'm still used to saying I'm writing. I have finished writing a book. Okay. And the book is called Culture Control. Culture Control. The subtitle is Why the Love of Money is Objectively the Root of All Evil. And in this book, it starts off with this quote from Jordan Maxwell. Okay, it's actually this picture made, found on Instagram. And it says, or he said, nothing in this world operates the way you think it does. Banks do not loan money. Governments are not empowered to protect you. The police department is not there to serve you. Institutions of higher learning, colleges and educational institutes are not there to educate you. The entire superstructure of civilization in the Western world is a combination of brilliantly put together and planned, well-planned schemes to direct the minds of people in such a way that they serve their masters.
Amen.
Jordan Maxwell.
Yep.
He passed away in 2022, I believe. Rest in power.
Yeah, I think so.
The truth is that the human race is enslaved. Okay, and in this quote, he says, in the Western world, I would say the entire superstructure of civilization, period, is a combination of well-planned schemes to direct the minds of people to serve their masters. Yep. There is no way around this fact that the human race is enslaved, unless you limit your definition of slavery to chains, whips, and labor. Chains, whips, and forced labor, where you're not making a dime. But there is such a thing as wage slavery. There's tax slavery. We're like free-range chickens that are in the thing, and we still are told when to go to sleep, when to wake up, and what to do. And you get a 15-minute break for lunch, and you get a 30-minute break for lunch, and all of this stuff. We're just free-range chickens. It's still slavery. Slavery does not mean whips, chains, and cotton. I'm sorry, Cynthia.
Mental slavery is the worst.
Oh my goodness.
It's the worst of all. The mental slavery.
Yes. And there's no way around this except to have the false idea about what slavery is. So slavery is forced servitude of any kind, not just forced labor. So you're forced mental servitude, meaning if you parrot without doing your own research and without checking to see if it's a moral call, the things that the authoritative sources say. And trust me, some of what the authoritative sources are going to say will be true and will be backed by facts. There has never been a time where the mainstream media is all 100% lies only. There's usually a good 75-25 lies, 75% lies, 25% truth in all forms of mainstream notions that are given, narratives. That's what I was looking for, narratives that are given to the public. Okay. And because it has the 25% truth, people will cling on to that 25 as support for believing the 75% lies and living their life by the 100% of a half truth. Right? A half truth is a whole lie all day long.
Okay? Every day, 7 days a week.
7 days a week. Okay. 25 hours a day. Our human family is under the watchful eye of extremely evil forces that hold all of the illusory power. It's not real power that they hold, but they hold all of the illusory power by our consent and our obedience. Okay. That's the power that they have, is our obedience. Let that sink in. The only power these business entities and people hold is our obedience to their words. That's it. If you take our obedience away, they have no power.
Nothing.
By way of holding the keys, which is knowledge, to the mental prison. And by doing this, we are left without a proper definition of freedom. So because we don't have a proper definition of slavery, of course, just thereby of the principle of duality and polarity, we also are not going to have a proper definition of freedom. Credit to Mark Passio for this slide within my slide. This is from his natural law seminar. It's an 8-hour video. It's required watching for the human race. Okay. Yes. Mark Passio, natural law, parts 1, 2, and 3. Just go to whatonearthishappening.com, watch parts 1, 2, and 3. You have to watch it all together. So take a day of education, and it's required watching for the human race. Okay. I'm just going to put it like that. But he talked about the mental schism that we suffer from in terms of our brain and understanding the basics. You don't have to be a neurologist, but understanding the basics of the human brain really gives you insight into where you may be falling short and where you may be leaning too far, which way and that way. And a way that he talks about it, before I just read the slide outright, is that the left hemisphere, which governs largely our logic, our analytical thinking, our skepticism toward, just accepting new ideas blindly, science, mathematics, language. The left hemisphere is like a masculine aspect of our brain's function, okay, or our frontal lobe and whatnot's function, the neocortex. This left hemisphere function, if it's leaned on too much, then you'll land in what he calls master think, and you'll be dominated by a need to be stepping on other people to feel good about yourself, basically. And the polar truth to that is when you lean too far into the right brain, the right hemisphere of the brain, which is like the feminine aspect of the brain, which governs our creative capacities, holistic thought, compassion, cooperation, right? It leans towards that group think, right? It leans to where, and group think can be a very powerful tool if the group is correct. Okay. Right. We're not anti anything here in terms of large things, large semi-natural things that human beings do. We're anti doing it the wrong way and doing it blindly and doing it without checking in with yourself and with your sense of morality. But when you lean too much into the right hemisphere and into that part of yourself, then you land in what's called slave think, which is essentially the opposite of wanting to stand on others to feel good. It's wanting others to stand on you so that you feel good. Basically, if others are taking care of me, even if they're standing on me, but I'm alive, then I'll accept that because I don't have any real courage, and I don't want to develop any real responsibility over my life. So I'll just let them do with me what they will, as long as they keep me alive. That sort of slave think. Okay. Freedom is one's right to spontaneously act, imagine, emote, and or respond however one may choose, unless and until their actions bring harm to another sentient being, excusing acts of defense. Again, freedom, I'm defining freedom here for everybody because people have a wrong definition of freedom. So I'm giving the right definition, and this is correct. As Mark often says in his own presentations, this is correct. If you think this is incorrect, you are wrong. Freedom is one's right to spontaneously act. So freedom is spontaneity. Imagine, emote, and or respond, however one may choose, unless and until their actions bring harm to someone else, excusing, of course, genuine acts of defense. The extent of human freedom that we experience at any given time balances with human moral integrity. To be morally responsible, you have to know the true difference between what right and wrong is. Because to be free, you have to align the group, and you have to align yourself within the group with right. Because the more right you are, the more free the group will be as an aggregate. Of course, within a group, there has always been people that experience the function on a functional level more freedom than others. I don't mean that have it on a spiritual level, but that as a function of their life, experience more freedom on a day-to-day basis, like those with a lot of money or those with a lot of influential status over other people, or those who sit in the controller seat, controlling all of the levers and the special lights and the smoke and mirrors of the magic trick that are outside of the realm of money, and write the rules actually for how money is going to flow and how religion is going to work in a given society or around the world, if you will. Those people and the people that have a whole lot of money, like super buku money, experience a lot more freedom on a day-to-day basis on a functional level. They don't really have it. It's not real, but they experience it in terms of what they have access to, right? Access to food, access to experience and adventure, access to travel, access to even things like entertainment and sex and different pleasures and things. They just have all of this freedom to choose whatever they want to do at any given time, whereas the average person is just struggling to make ends meet, right? Now, what are wrongs? Okay, freedom is defined as, like I said, spontaneity, as long as you don't hurt anybody. And hurt somebody means doing wrong. Okay, you can hurt somebody in more ways than just bodily harm. We'll get into that in this slide. Well, what are the basic wrongs that anybody can commit? This is also credit to Mark Passio. There are 4 of them. All of them deal with theft. But first, we're just going to define the 4 of them in the most basic terms. First of which is bodily harm. Okay, bodily harm strips someone of their freedom to be comfortable in their own body. Another quote by Jeremy Locke is, everything that teaches people, I forget the direct quote, but basically anything that diminishes the freedom of somebody else is what evil is. Okay, so evil is inherently tied to freedom. Mm-hmm. And bodily harm strips someone of their freedom to be comfortable in their own body. Even if you're inflicting harm so that they learn a lesson or whatever, if it's not a genuine act of defense, don't harm nobody. Murder. Murder is obviously the ultimate form of stripping someone's freedom from them, at least in this 3D realm. I do believe we are eternal, but in terms of this 3D space, murder is the ultimate form. You can't strip nobody's freedom any more than that.
Right.
And then there's theft, which strips someone of their freedom to enjoy the use or sight of their rightfully obtained possessions. And then there's deception. It's wrong to deceive someone or a group of people because deceit strips someone of their freedom of informed choice. If you have information and you're sharing information intentionally incompletely or intentionally wrong to someone else about any given topic whatsoever, even if it's what you did earlier that day, they may make a choice in their mind based on the information you give them. And so it's wrong to deceive someone. It's even wrong to tell a white lie. Not saying this from my high horse. I tell white lies. I try not to. I try to get better. I try, y'all. But I just want to, I want to remain relatable. Like, I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But it's wrong to lie because it strips someone of their freedom of informed choice. So that's what wrongs are. Did you want to add anything to that, Cynthia? I know natural law is, your territory as well.
No, that's right on point, because those are all forms of theft. Those are all forms of stealing from someone. Yep.
Absolutely. Now, most people in the world do not just go around intentionally causing bodily harm, murdering, or stealing from people. Most people do not do this. Yes, you will see a lot more theft than you will murder in your day. But even with all of the theft that you see and people stealing toothbrushes from Walmart and all of that, this is little thing. What happens is what we're really comfortable with is deceit, is deception. The reason why it seems like every time a group of people, especially here in America or in the Western world, like a large group, like the country or even, right, takes a step in the direction of morality, it seems like we take 2 steps back, is because we're so comfortable lying to each other.
Yeah.
We're comfortable lying to each other. And the fact is, moral law, again, it's a set of conditions that is built into the universe itself. Okay, it's impartial to individuals and what an individual's story is and how good they are to their grandma. It doesn't care. Natural law is what governs the consequences for our actions in terms of objective morality or in regard to objective morality. And so when we are so comfortable and so used to and so habitual about lying to each other, we are suffering the spiritual consequences and the physical consequences and the emotional consequences and mental consequences of a people that consistently do an immoral thing, which is called lying. Okay. And this is why we are not happy as a group. We are not happy. Don't let Instagram and TikTok fool you. We are not happy.
Yeah.
I mean, we have happy moments, right? But we could be a lot happier if we stop doing each other wrong by lying to each other all the time. Right. Now, deceit happens in many ways, not limited to manipulating a relationship for selfish means, pushing your children or someone else under your influence to risk their own life or reputation just for personal gain, making them do something they don't really want to do, or making them do something that, again, risks their reputation or even risks them being in harm's way just so you can get something out of it. Creating a contract that isn't understood in plain language by ordinary people. I don't know how many of you have read your car loan contract, but I'm sure you don't understand it. Yeah, I don't know how many of you have read your cell phone contract, but I'm sure you wouldn't understand it.
Yep.
And why is that? They can very easily write it in plain language.
Right.
They don't want you to know. These deceptive actions are not mere concepts. Again, this whole presentation does not deal with something outside of our experience. Real spiritual, real life consequences come from collective illusions. Okay. Now, deceptions or these deceptive acts, are not mere concepts. They are observable actions that result from choices which carry natural law consequences, as I just said. Most of us have no intention of committing these wrong actions except for one, which is deceit. Deceit, in its many forms, is the primary cause of spiritual consequences afflicting us. And I used to be a huge liar myself. I am not a huge liar now. I'm a little bit of a liar now.
Baby liar.
So, by the way, it is I guess 8:02 your time. I got a couple more slides here. Can I just keep going?
Yeah,
I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Okay. Let's go through some of the biggest collective illusions, and then we'll go through some of the biggest cultural norms. The biggest and father of collective illusions, or what I like to call the father of all religions, okay, is the religion of authority. A lot of people hear the word religion and they think like, oh, an organized faith system. And yes, that is a description, but it just, it doesn't have to have a holy book to be a faith system. Okay. And the faith in authority, just because you have a uniform on, or just because you have a government badge, or just because you participate in legislation, or you're a lawyer, or you're whatever, this religion of authority which is the belief that there is a small group of people that have the moral obligation to rule over others if they're elected into a seat, or back in the monarchy days, if they are the chosen royalty by the God above, then I have a moral obligation to obey their rules, right? That's the religion of authority. And this is the father of all religions, because there are many authorities put all over, in local government, in medicine, in everything, business. There's just, the religion of authority is everywhere. It's huge. I don't have time to go into it in full depth here, but you can see it everywhere. Yeah. Also, the religion of authority when it comes to media, that includes news media, Hollywood media, celebrity messaging, school-related media, all of that. Next, the religion of monetary value. This is what I call the mother of all religions. Okay, the father of all religions is authority. The mother of all religions is the religion of monetary value, where everybody is participating in the blatant, erroneous claim, okay, blatantly wrong claim that there is such thing as monetary value. There is no such thing, and never has been, as monetary value. Nothing. A piece of gold is no more valuable than a piece of paper, is no more valuable than a piece of copper. It's not. There's no such thing. It's a made up concept. And yet we live in a world where you can be put in a cage for something called debt, or you could go starve because of owing taxes to, some sort of regime and some sort of government. Right? Starve, you and your whole family. The children included, the dog included, y'all all starve because of this thing called monetary value, and a refusal to just share rice or whatever, or potatoes. And you can see how that is everywhere as well. There's also the religion of healthcare, not health, but the religion of healthcare. Again, separating health from the religion of healthcare. So I'm not demonizing doctors. I'm not trying to belittle people that are like on the front lines of trying to make sure people that have broken their arm or whatever get better. But the religion of healthcare is like what the public suffers from, in terms of looking at the healthcare system as the top-down expert solution to everything wrong with their health. This is the illusion, collective illusion that all of us are under across the whole world. This is not an American problem. None of these in this slide are just an American problem or just a Western society problem. This is the world. Yes. And then there's the religion of hedonism. If you don't know what hedonism is, it's basically the attitude, I should be able to do whatever I want because I'm going to die anyway. Okay, I should be able to do whatever I want, including, whatever. I don't want to get too graphic, but just whatever I want, and it's my life, and don't judge me, and only God can judge me, and blah, blah, blah. This is a very passive and a very, let's say, irresponsible, like on an extreme level, attitude it's older than the New Age movement, but it's highlighted by the New Age movement. It's highlighted by the new, like, third coming of atheism, and the philosophies taught in atheism today is the religion of hedonism. Okay, there's no objective morality. There's no natural law. There's nothing governing moral integrity, and that brings consequences for actions. And if there is, then it's wrong and I'm right and I should be able to do what I want. That sort of thinking.
Just all moral relativism. And what kills me about a lot of people that adhere to moral relativism because everything they do is fine. They're deeming it moral because they're doing it, but let somebody do that to them. Same thing, let somebody do it to them. Then all of a sudden, wait, that's wrong. Why are you doing that? You're terrible. It's so illogical, but yeah.
And they don't even see the hypocrisy. Okay, so let's get into some of the biggest cultural norms. Okay, and some of these might be Western world centered. I am an American, so I grew up here, and this is the world I know. Also, some of these are whole world, suffered by those of us in the whole world as well. So first, I want you to take a look at the meme. Everything is fine. Keep shopping. Right? You can smell her breath through this picture, can't you? It's just like, goodness gracious. So she's drinking brains. She's smoking a cigarette. She's got another cup of, coffee or something, the smaller cup in her right hand, holding the cell phone and the shopping bag. And she's got the American flag on the bag with the dog looking all demonic and stuff. Her skin is rotting off of her face. And yet everything is fine. Keep shopping. What does this mean? This means none of these things are going to necessarily take her out today, except for that skin rash. None of these things are going to kill you today. But there are so many cultural norms that are killing you slowly. And we're going to go through a couple of those on this slide. Your nutrition is one of them. We can just add that somewhere to the list. But first of all, we choose ignorance. What does that mean? We pay attention to our interests and our interests only. We don't take the time and let's say sacrifice the spiritual currencies, time and attention to learning about that which is afflicting others in a bad way so that we can help. We don't have any compassion for each other as human beings and fellow human beings. So we choose ignorance and just focus on our own, what we like, right? Or what we're interested in. Some of what we're interested in is like helping people get free and helping people get well. And that's fine. Don't stop doing that. But also everybody should learn a little bit about the dark occult influences that make us hate each other and fight each other all the time, because it's crazy what we do to each other. The second one I want to go over is we work for a living and pay taxes. What is this about? Why am I paying taxes in a country that prints money? What is that about?
At will, whenever they feel like it.
Whenever they feel like it. I want to go to war with Iran. Oh, print some more. Yep. And it ain't small money that they print. They're not printing like, oh, let's print $30 more and put them in a rotation. No. Let's print a couple trillion. Mm-hmm. And print money also includes just typing into the Federal Reserve System another $45 trillion, and there we go. Now it's in circulation.
Yep. It's just zeros.
Crypto, same thing. They just make it up.
Yep.
So work for a living and pay taxes, and then work for a living, it means instead of living for a living, right? Instead of experiencing life, growing, learning from your mistakes, and living from a mode of connecting with people and connecting so that we can evolve as a human family.
Yes. Community,
right? Working for a living instead of that.
Yes.
Genuine growth and collaboration. Exactly.
Yes.
We keep quiet about government evil doing. This is a cultural norm. This is something that if you start to talk about it, you'll feel that conformity bias kick in. You'll feel that I don't want to, right? Cynthia, as a truth teller, I know you've experienced that because I have, and I'm like, I'm never afraid, but I feel it. I feel it sometimes. It's like, maybe I'll let this one blow over. And it's like, nah, I got to say something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, after a while you get over it, and like it almost when you feel it, it almost encourages you to go ahead and say something. But like at first, when you first get into this world of telling the truth, it's like, do I really want to address, that problem? Do I really want to address, whatever? Yeah, I think I should. And it's scary.
Quiet. I wouldn't agree, but I would just get quiet. Like, wow, I can't. But it's like, now, nah, bring it on. Let's go.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Thanksgiving
clap back.
Yeah.
Don't be a conspiracy theorist. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. Don't say there's like this conglomerate of people who are at the top of the food chain that are orchestrating all these wars, and structures around education. Don't say that. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. That's a conspiracy, right? It's a cultural norm to promote groupthink, to hold the attitude that it's a good argument if you say everybody knows that, and just leave it at that, and that's your whole argument, right? Among other things, promoting groupthink. Eating popular fast food is a cultural norm that's killing us slowly, right? And I mean, really any fast food, but like chain restaurants, fast food restaurants, anything cooked in canola oil, is just bad.
Right.
And neglecting opportunities to learn about permaculture and learn about growing your own, all of that, it's all tied into it. Worshiping celebrities, and don't openly discourage celebrity worship. Don't openly discourage either by making fun of, like, let's say the Beehive, Beyonce's Beehive, or, whatever, whoever's the craze of these days. I'm 32, so Beyonce's Beehive I saw from the beginning to now. And don't discourage that openly. Don't be public about discouraging celebrity worship, or, basically people are going to shame you for that. People are going to say, oh, people should like who they like, and act like it's not
jealous. Am I though?
Awaiting top-down expert solutions to everything, right? We already talked about that. Going viral by any means necessary, and then ignoring what others need, which is another thing I already covered, which is a lack of compassion and true care with a capital C for your fellow human beings, as well as just the human condition, right? Right. Having the attitude that if my family makes it out, then I'm good enough. Everything's good enough.
Yep.
Now, we're not going to go into programmability today because I want to respect all of you's time and Cynthia's time. I also want to say that this toy on the right is not real. It's not a real toy that you can get at the store.
Thank
but
goodness.
It reflects where society is headed. And an artist made this who is trying to make a point, right? And they made a whole commercial for it and everything, and he fooled a lot of people, and then eventually was like, okay, chill out, y'all. It's not real. You can't go find this at Walmart. Yeah. But it reflects where society is headed, and initiatives that are already in place, like social credit score, which can limit your access to travel in the near future in the USA, like it already does in China and other communist countries. So this is just the toy on the right is just like a stab at where we are headed if we keep moving forward with fucking blinders on. And that's exactly what we're doing. The picture on the left highlights the similarities between the school system and the school environment, and the prison environment. And I am gonna read these just so we can really sort of put the point home. Authoritarian structure, meaning the bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you. And even if the bell dismissed you, that's still authoritarian. Dress code, okay. Emphasis on silence and order. Negative reinforcement. Go sit over there. Go wait outside. Go to the principal's office, whatever it is. Negative reinforcement. With an emphasis on not so much positive reinforcement, and especially, in, let's say, lower income schools, okay, where they don't have all of the psychology experts coming in and saying, you should practice more positive reinforcement to go along with your negative reinforcement. Walk in lines, very, very subtle thing, walk in lines. Loss of individual autonomy. That goes again with the dress code, with the uniforms, all of that, the forced conformity to the cultures. Abridged freedoms. You got yard for, an hour. You got recess for 30 minutes.
Yep.
Right. No input in decision making. None whatsoever. I'm not saying kids should be ruling how a classroom is run, because obviously the adult needs some power over the children. That's natural, but not past a natural mark, not past a very organic natural mark. So no input whatsoever in decision making, and set times for enforced walking, eating, etc. Okay, these things, they not only set you up to be programmed for a prison environment, but they also set you up to be programmed to just obey the authority no matter what.
Yeah, it also sets you up for the corporate America job environment, the workforce, because the workforce
Absolutely.
is the same type of control system
Yep.
in most cases.
Programmability. Once you're locked in, quote unquote, there is always an escape to freedom. But once you're quote unquote locked in, sort of locked in, meaning in your mental schism, you're locked in to a certain group, you are vulnerable to being programmed with conformity bias reactions to empowering behaviors. Meaning something in your head will go, don't do that, when you start to empower yourself and unconform to the group think. Does that make sense? Did I say that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Our freedom depends on our nonconformity and our collective victory over ignorance. Thank you so very much for being here, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I didn't take too much of your time. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to stay as long as Cynthia lets me stay, in case any of y'all want to add to the conversation or have questions or whatever. You can before that though, you can reach me through looking up Ufulu Child LLC, if you will, Linktree, Ufulu Child on all social media platforms, as well as Meditation OTH, which is a short form for Meditation of the Heart. So OTH is of the heart. And then my email, soul@ufuluchild.com. You can hit me up. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I just wrote a book, y'all. Let's
see, yes.
Just wrote a book. I told you that Jordan Maxwell picture is right in the front.
Love it.
It's huge. It's a lot of information. I got a big brain, so I wanted to share it with you all out of love.
Awesome.
So
when will we be able to get the book?
Very soon. I don't have an answer for that yet.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for that yet, but very, very soon.
Definitely keep us posted, and there will be links when I post this video after editing. There'll be links so that you can connect with Soul. I will post a PDF version of all the slides that he shared, along with the video, so you'll be able to reach out to him directly and review any of this information that you would like to review later. And I just want to personally thank you, because that was an excellent presentation. You hit home on so many important points and so many things that people overlook, because when you're immersed in these norms, you forget, like, I don't have to be like this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to think this way. I don't have to act this way. I don't have to listen to the crazy nonsense that's constantly being forced into my head. So I thought that was an amazing presentation, and I really want to thank you for coming on. Did anyone have any questions?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And I try to sometimes be a voice of where, some people say sometimes you just need permission to be yourself, or to say no, or to whatever. Like I try to be that voice sometimes for people and say, look, you got permission to,
to do the right thing, to move and act in true care and show compassion to your fellow human beings. Even if that goes against the grain. Did anyone have any questions at all? No. Okay. Well,
I wasn't sure how to raise my hand or something, so I just unmuted. Good day. This is Kenzie. First of all, this was the first time me experiencing this presentation, and I loved it. Thank you.
Yes, it was great.
One of the things that came up is, of course, there's the themes that were brought up of courage in the midst of going against the grain of the cultural norms that we find ourselves entrenched in, and how it's important to see through and start to push up back against our own self-deceptions is something that I was picking up from the presentation as well, and how we present ourselves to others, and how we truly see ourselves through our own eyes as well, to kind of match up between the outer expression and the inner expression as much as we can. I feel like that's what authenticity is. And, that's a big buzzword nowadays. Everyone's trying to get to becoming more authentically themselves, but it's also in the bubble of, okay, culture though. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's something that in my own life, I'm becoming more and more, it's like I'm becoming more comfortable with it. It's more so like it's like that reckoning moment where these things, your heart says to go ahead and share it out. And now it's the time to put the will behind the words. It feels like, do you have any words of guidance for those that are, taking those first steps to really share their honest expressions and get out of their own self-deception?
Well, you'll never. Yes, I do. Because if I put myself back in my old shoes, if you will, my smaller shoes, where I was like, well, do I know enough to say something out loud? What if I'm challenged with a question that I'm not ready to answer, but I do know like a little bit, but I don't want to look stupid, right? That sort of in-between moment where you get purity tests. And it's like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Which I've gone through twice, right? Because I went from leftism to conservative, and then I went from conservative to spiritual anarchist, which is just two huge drifts, if you will. And
drifts.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like you will never be at a point where you know everything, and you will never be at a point where you feel like you can answer every question, right? You'll come to some points where you feel like you kind of got your footing somewhere, and that is maybe a good calling to go ahead and step in. But there will always be, the next week after that feeling is there, where you hear somebody who you like or who, you aspire to be able to deliver a message like one day, and they'll be giving their message. You'll be like, damn, they're so polished. How do you do that? Maybe I'll wait. And I would just encourage that you don't focus on being at the destination. That basically you focus on being a part of the voices out there that are spreading the truth regardless, and be okay to get some shit wrong.
Right.
Be okay to get some shit wrong. I've gotten plenty of shit wrong publicly that it's out there on the internet and it's dead wrong. And I was wrong when I said it, and I had no idea I was wrong, but I thought I was doing God's work. And it's okay, right? It's a new day. You have the right to grow. You have the right to look back at yourself and giggle a little bit. Don't take life so serious. You're an eternal being made by a benevolent, eternal force, if you will. And life is not just about you. It's about those who you can help as well. I mean, it's about you, but it's about also those who you can help. So get out there and help some damn body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Respect.
Yeah. Because I had that same hesitation before I started the podcast. I was like, oh, I would really love to study this like 5-10 more years. But I looked around me at the state of the world. This can't wait 5 more minutes. It really can't when you look at the state of the world. And if you really care, you're going to start to say something. You have to, because it's just the rate at which things are falling apart for many is astonishing, so because the forces that be are a well-oiled machine, and they don't never stop. They don't never take a break. They 24/7 propaganda, control, whatever. So we have to have ourselves in that same mindset, 24/7, truth, freedom, anti-propaganda. We have to be in that same mindset. Otherwise, we don't stand a chance to spread this message.
100,000%. Everything you just said.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. I appreciate that. That level of transparency as well is needed. Just being honest about, hey, this is where I'm at in this part of this journey, and I don't have all the answers, but I know this ain't right.
Exactly. I know that. I knew that much. This is not right, and this cannot stand. I care too much. My heart's too big to watch this and do nothing.
Yeah. And just on a technical level, like on a very kind of minute level, maybe brutal honesty as well. Like, I don't know this part, and this part, but this right here is wrong because of this, and this, right? Could be a way that you approach answering certain things, or like in your head thinking about how you're going to answer certain things, when really sometimes people are just relieved to hear the truth. They won't even ask you the super nuanced question and, whatnot. You won't have to be as polished as you think once you put yourself out there, I do want to acknowledge a friend is on here, Brianna. I don't know if I don't want to put her on the spot, but I can see Brianna's in here. So I just want to, shout out. She's a good, really, really good friend of mine. She's like fam.
Awesome. So awesome. Glad she could join us. Any other questions at all? No? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you again, Soul, for, being my guest for the second time. And again, visit the website, affirmlifedaily.com. There's, like I said, resources, affirmations, videos. There's just a lot of information there that's really helpful if you are really dedicated to this truth and freedom movement. And I want to wish everyone a wonderful night full of love, light, and gratitude. Okay. Did you have something quick?
One, I just thought of an answer to where you will be able to get the book when it's ready.
Oh, okay.
That Linktree /Ufulu Child, it'll definitely be on there.
Be on there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just not ready yet.
With this presentation when I put it up. So, and you'll be able to find this presentation on my website, on YouTube, and on Rumble once it's ready. All right. Well, everyone, again, have a great night. And thank you so much for joining us. Until next time. Okay. All right. Peace.